Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I do hope this week is finding all of you quite well. Did you know you can get 6 free chicken tenders from KFC? It's a thing you can do. I'm not sure I would recommend it. I'm not actually into KFC myself, but I suppose that's just a preference thing, really. I don't mind fried chicken as long as there's plenty of chicken underneath the fried, you know? Again, preference thing. As per usual, I have a couple of little show things to talk about really quick. I do want to remind, at this point, Random Bystander and Rai Okami are the 2 people I have failed at getting a hold of. If you are watching this, please get a hold of me with regards to the theater. I have a hard deadline in mind. It's whenever Rax finishes submitting his lines. If that happens, people are getting recast. Period. So before we get into better news, let's start with bad. We always start with the worst, right? So, unfortunately, the Commercial Felony Streaming Act is a bill that has currently been introduced in the United States Senate, proposed by Amy Klobuchar and Chris Coons and John Cornyn on May 12th of 2011. Wait, hang on. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. That was the last time they were trying this bullcrap. Sorry, this time... How many of you remember that? This is the second time they've tried to do that. That bill was actually... It never got introduced properly, and never received a vote, and much of its content was consolidated on something that you guys probably have heard of called SOPA, which is all I really need to say about that one. So, round 2, as they say. Some of you guys probably remember that when SOPA came out, and I did a video myself about this, that wasn't round 1 either. One of these days, it would be nice if we could get to a point where we have to stop trying to prevent idiots from, ripping just... I don't have words at this point. I don't have words. These people need to be punched in the face. Moving on. I mean, that's the thing. You're probably expecting me to do a big analysis on this thing, but there's nothing to examine and analyze. This has been a stupid idea for literally over a decade. It has not stopped being a stupid idea. In fact, it has become more of a stupid idea. Actual professors at law have actually sat down and said, this is stupid. What's his name? Here we go. What's your name? Come on, I have your thing up right here. Jonathan Zittrain, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, who is a professor of law at Harvard, has sat down and said, this is really stupid. I mean, I could read it to you, but that's what he says. This is astonishingly stupid. He also goes down his list about saying how this isn't even something that should be legally enforceable. And he really breaks it. He does it so much better than I do. Like, I'm just giving this a brief thing. He actually sits down and says, okay, a third-party service, which you have hosted here, which puts you on a thing to launder liability for the reasonability that it's in safe haven, which makes it a public performance, which is covered by this law, and blah, 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 blah. He really goes down the list and really explains how stupid this is. What's funny is the last time they did this, they ended up paperclipping it too. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk. In my notes for Loreweek, I literally have theater notes, and then my second point is idiot, and that's all I had. That's all I have written down there. I do have one other bit of show news. So you guys may or may not be aware of the fact. I'm mentioning this because I keep getting questions about it. The list is no longer in lockdown and hasn't been for like 37 days, I think, at this point. Oh, it would be challenged by, at the very least, at the state level, Hazardous. But it's entirely possible it will get paperclipped in. Oh, by the way, the thing it's trying to get paperclipped into this time is the approval for the budget. As in the funding, the government budget, you know, the thing that comes up every year and is always a big hassle because every single person tries to use it. I'm exaggerating. Virtually every single person involved in the upper levels of government tries to use it as an excuse to fight amongst each other and, you know, get brownie points for their side or to get things that they're trying to push through because you have to fund the budget. And so, well, you know, I'll agree to your budget proposal if you also do this for me. And it just... Anyways, what the hell was I talking about? The list is no longer in lockdown, and as a direct consequence, people have added 235 games to the list. I think it might be, actually no, it's more than that now, because I haven't actually, the website is not up to date. I frankly haven't had time. I don't mean that as a negative, I have not had time. So yeah, we're actually up to these ones now as well have been added, and there's actually some I have written down which I have not added yet either. So, website, not up to date. So I guess we're going to add, let's see, so someone wanted to add, there's something recently here. Overlord, that's it, so we're up to 236 now. And I think there was another one. No, maybe I'm wrong, Nope, that's going to get added. So yeah, we're going to be up to 237 now. Is Hyrule Warriors on the list? I think it is. Hyrule. Yep, there it is. Hyrule Warriors 2 is on the list. A lot of you put money towards Dealer's Choice. Ironically, that number has gone down substantially since the list has opened up, which is part of the point. Dealer's Choice is something that I use in order as... I call it the customer service thing, for those of you not aware. I know a lot of you know this, so forgive me for repeating it. The idea is that if you donate towards Dealer's Choice, I reallocate that towards runs that don't get the support they otherwise could because of the fact that they have dedicated support. Like, let's say there's one person who is regularly donating towards X. Dealer's Choice tends to go to that. Or maybe there's a run where a lot of people have donated towards it, but not a lot of money. Dealer's Choice tends to go towards that. It's a way to support you guys and get more money towards runs that otherwise aren't as popular in order to make sure that they actually get funded. In other words, it's not Dealer's Choice at all. It's just Dealer's Allocation. Now, some people have asked me to actually do a legitimate Dealer's Choice, my picks, which is interesting because I do have my picks. In fact, I have a completely separate page here, right here, which has many games that I would like to stream someday. How many games, you ask? Well, give me a second. I'll do a little math. You're going to have to give me a second. Here we go. So what is this? That's a lot. That's actually more than I thought it was going to be. Might mute myself by accident here. $214. There are 214 games on the list of games that I would like to stream someday. Now, sometimes you guys pick things from this, and in which case those things are shunted over for obvious reasons. But the point here is it has come up several times that people actually want me to pick something that I want to stream from what used to be called Lore's List. Now, this distinction has existed in my mind for some time. But every time someone donates, they specifically say for Dealer's Choice, which to date has, and indeed always has meant, the allocation, trying to even out thing. So I guess I'm just being nice and transparent here and asking you guys if we want to make a distinction, or if we want to just kind of completely eject Dealer's Choice, or excuse me, Dealer's Choice, as in my list, and just say screw it. What do you think? This would also mean that someone who is donated could donate towards Dealer's Allocation, aka the customer service angle, or I want you to pick something you want to play, aka I want you to pick something you want to play. Because if you remember, when we did that massive poll for Dealer's Choice things, those were the two biggest reasons why people were doing Dealer's Choice. Almost in even. If you're leaving it to my discretion, 100% of that's going towards allocation. I'm just going to tell you that. When am I going to allocate? Probably in about a year. I'm not actually joking. It'll probably be closer to May. I have not actually allocated dealer's choice in months and months because there's no reason to. Indeed, it would actually be detrimental to do that right now. The queue is big enough as is. One of the big things I'm trying to solve, and I think we're succeeding at, is throughput. The amount of games funded needs to be roughly equal to the amount of games run. In, out. And what we've been having is way too many games funded and way too few games run. So we've been adjusting numbers and adjusting things to try and, like I said, even this out a little bit. This is one of the reasons we've been smashing out so many long games recently, and will continue to do so probably for a couple months. And this is also one of the reasons why I have not allocated any dealer's choices things, because there's no reason to. All it would do would make the problem worse. What the heck is a happy stream? Yep, right after Cyberpunk, we're going through HOM. I have no idea how long Cyberpunk's going to be. I don't want you to tell me. Is Valhalla on the list? Well, there's an easy way to check that. If you go to lorebrunner.com and you scroll down on the left, there's a thing called the list, which you can click, and then you can search that to see if Valhalla is on that list. I could answer you directly, but I'm really, really, really going to be pushing the website even more than I already have been. I'm just going to stop answering people when they ask questions like that. The website's there for a reason. You know. And yes, I know the camera bounces a little bit when I do that. There's not a lot I can do about that. I suppose we could throw up a straw poll over this. It's not up to date as of 2 days ago, Gigapudding. Which just means that all the donations for this weekend and stuff over yesterday and Friday haven't been added, that's all. So Pokemon Crystal, Planescape Torment, and Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous are not as high as they should be. That's kind of it. I mean, there's others, obviously. There's $2 for Yakuza Kiwami 2, there's $2 for Bloodborne, there's $2 for Command & Conquer 3, but you get the point. And by the way, what do you think of the posters? I'm so happy with those. It's probably not visible or obvious, but those are my own custom wallpapers that I managed to. I managed to find a place who will do custom size printing. This is actually a weird problem I've run into, because that's weird. Did the straw poll site shut down? Did it seriously? I was about to throw up a straw poll. But it's gone. Well, I sure hope not, Crazy North, since there's no green screen here. The green screen's in the closet right now. That's so strange. I had an account there and everything. Okay, no, it's still here. What the hell? That is bizarre. Anyways. What the hell was I talking about? Posters. Those are 16:9 posters back there. Obviously, because they were designed to be wallpapers. That's how they were made. And the reason that's interesting to me is, believe it or not, the overwhelming majority of custom poster people will not do a 16:9 format. All of their things are a completely different resolution or thing, and it's just very, very strange the way they do that. You'd think 16:9 would be a semi-regular poster format, but no. I had to go digging for a place that would actually do custom paper sizes, and then manually figure out what the inches are on these things in order to actually be able to have them created. Anyways, but yeah, I'm really happy with how they look great. They look absolutely phenomenal in person. I'm sure you guys can't fully see that, and that's just kind of how it is. But God, they look so good. They're also quite large. They're like, you know, like this. I know it's hard to see because they're back on the wall, but you get the idea. We got the Mario one, the FF6 one, and the FF4 one, which is the ones I've decided for right now. I was hoping to get one of those snap frames, so you hang the frame and then you just swap in and out the posters. Those don't come in 16:9 either, so I'm going to have to go digging to see if I can either figure out how to make one or find a custom one. Anyways, and yes, I figured out a way to get our Pokemon here back, and some of you probably haven't noticed, but I've been filling out the background here bit by bit. It's actually a little... I'm such a geek. Every time I start to stream, as a little bit of a treat, like a little reward to myself, I add one thing to the set behind me. And so I've been doing it bit by bit. You guys probably haven't noticed, and that's probably okay, but the idea is over time, it'll become more obvious as things are filling out and things are being added to it. How many of you guys even noticed the Star Destroyer right here, for example? Not that I blame you, it's almost invisible back there. I don't really have a good solution for that. Anyways. Let's see here. That is exactly what I'm trying to do, Plutonia. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that Star Destroyer. I don't have a stand for it, like, period. And there's only so much you can do with a Star Destroyer. That's such a strange question, Imperial Star Destroyer. You might as well ask me why I put black connectors on the white box. I guess there's only really two options here. There's dealer's choice, which is allocation, or there's distinguish between dealer's choice and dealer's allocation. So, yeah, okay. So we now have a poll. Please feel free to vote. I suppose it's a good time to fix this because this is over here in the corner. Yeah, there we go. Voot, as they say. So I think that's actually everything for show news. Let me double check my massive notes here. That's the wrong notes. I need these notes. Here we go. Yep, okay. So let's go ahead. So apparently Imperial Star Destroyer does not like black and white. Interesting. Do I need to change my outfit? Imperial Star Destroyer. Let's get to the fact that 1 billion announcements. I was talking to Gary about this morning. It's like we have week after week after week after week of nothing. No news. No nothing to talk about. You do not need to sign in for the Voots. If you did, that would be stupid. The whole point of the Voot is for it to be, anonymous. So it's just like, oh my god, this week, all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, hey, we have announcements. We have all of them. All the announcements have happened this week. I spent the better part of 2.5 hours this morning and little bits of time yesterday and the day before just compiling. Just compiling notes and links. The VOD is going to have 1 billion links here. It might actually overwhelm the comment section, so we're going to have to figure this out. I mean, anyone with an opinion, Lord Harrimont. It's kind of up to you. Thank you for the sub, Silver Mask. As always. If you know where you want that to go, please let me know. I'll jot that down up here somewhere. Actually, no, I need to jot that down up here, don't I? Need to keep that separate from the Suikoden ones. And thank you, Darth Tyron, for the sub. Very much obliged, as always. Thank you. I put that towards Tor, JK. Valiant Hearts. We'll be talking about that later. Sort of. We'll be mentioning it later. So, let's get the big one over really quick. I think we all know the biggest news this week is that Sephiroth is in Smash. I actually have nothing to say about this. I'm glad people are glad for it. I actually did watch the trailer video, and it was actually legitimately awesome. It reminded me muchly of the Subspace Emissary videos, or the cutscenes. It reminded me of the Subspace Emissary cutscenes, which were awesome, and I wish we had that campaign again. And so that was cool. I actually don't have anything else to add to that. Of all of the characters they could have added, Sephiroth would have probably been one of my last picks. We already have someone from Square, someone from Square RPGs, and someone from Final Fantasy VII. Excuse me, someone from Final Fantasy, and then someone from Final Fantasy VII. So I think, we could have something from a billion other things first, but that's just me. Shrug. Cyberpunk has already made back the cost for both development and marketing. Not exactly a surprise. It has also had a bagrillion, rough number, of concurrent users and has been breaking many, many current records. I need someone to murder Chocolate Rob really quick, please. Thank you. Tons and tons of record breakings. Awesomeness. Woo. Cool. Don't actually care. We'll be playing that Friday. And this is why I wanted to mention this, by the way. This is the only reason I'm even bringing this up. You guys decided months ago that we would be playing it 1 week after it came out, which is the 18th. That's it. I just wanted to be clear because I have had repeated people coming in, hey, when are you streaming Cyberpunk? Hey, when? And it's nice to stay hydrated, and I do appreciate your guys' efforts in keeping me hydrated. I do. It's actually kind of helpful because I have a really bad habit of forgetting to drink. But Friday, guys. I suppose I should mention something. There's an extremely good chance that we are going to get Suikoden 5 done tomorrow. We might not, but at the absolute latest, we're going to be getting it done Tuesday. That's going to leave some days before Friday. What are we going to do? Nothing. I've actually been sitting on this decision for several days now, ever since I realized the pace we were making with Suikoden 5. Suikoden 5 is a very long game, and indeed, it is. We're like in the 45-hour range at this point. But I've been doing a lot of that off camera in order to make the stream less boring. So, we are technically going to be finishing it early. I could squeeze in a short game. I'm not going to. And I want to be honest about this, because FF14 is why. Now, I know that sounds like a strange statement, but I want you to walk through something with me for a second, okay? I want you to imagine for a moment that you have a job. I know, weird. And let's say that you're working at your job, and then you get a break. So you go, you take a break, cool. You come back, you work your job, and then you go home and you watch TV or play games, whatever you do. Okay, go to bed, wake up the next day, have your morning, give hugs to your cat and or others or whatever. Then you go back to work. All this sounds normal, right? Now I want you to imagine that for about a week, you wake up and then you go to work. And then you clock in, and then you work, and then you clock out for lunch break, and then you work. And then you clock in out of your lunch break, and then you work. And then you clock out for the night, and then you work. I want you to imagine that you're someone who exercises daily, but you skip exercises that week because you don't have time. I want you to imagine that you tell your friend, sorry, I can't play WoW or anything like that because I'm busy. That was the FF14 run for me. I'm not trying to complain, it's just the very nature of an MMO like FF14 and the way it's constructed pretty much meant that I had to be absolutely shoving my nose into the grind wheel. And to be perfectly frank, I have not recovered from that yet. This is the biggest reason why I'm going to go ahead and just take a couple days and not stream. I will still get work done, because it's me. But, yeah. The FF14 stream was absolutely exhausting. Good stream. But, oh my god. It's just... If FF14 is uniquely constructed to be like that, too. Because, It's actually complicated. Basically, the way FF14 is structured lends itself towards you have to do stuff that would normally be on camera in order to do the stuff that would be off camera. Now, there's ways to do that stuff off camera. It's just really, really slow and grindy and boring, and you can't really progress with half of it. If you remember, we didn't even actually technically finish the FF14 stream, because there's still content we didn't show. It's just, it was getting to the point where I was running out of steam, and we'd kind of finished the main Eden quest, and it's like, you know what, this is a really good chop-off stream. We'll do the rest later. So, that's why. I suppose it says a lot about me that I feel the need to explain why I need to take a break. Especially since, by the way, we'll not be streaming on Christmas Day. Sorry, forgot about that one. I will be going to my sister's for Christmas. Just us. No one else, because she's a closed circuit, I'm a closed circuit, so the two of us are safe to interact with each other. But as a consequence, I will not be streaming on Christmas Day, which is actually a change I was planning to. That's something that's news to me as of a couple days ago, which is why I'm sharing it with you. So I hate to take days off two weeks in a row like that, but whatever. Maybe I'll actually get caught up on theater too. Speaking of which, I'd like to really remind people that if they're interested in the Undertale theater, please give me some lines and give me some characters and give me some please give me the lines. I suppose this is a good time as any to mention that I'm probably not going to do any theaters after the Undertale theater. I know we're in random news, but whatever. I love working on the theater. I actually do. Working on the FF9 theater, working on the Undertale theater has been absolutely amazing. But running into the wall of I need people to send me lines is a unique level of irritating, frustrating stress that I just don't want to deal with anymore. To give you an example of this, I haven't had any new FF9 lines in months. FF9 is like 95% done. I just need lines from 5 people. And, and then we'd be done. Like, there's so many steps that I can't even work on because I need lines, because we need to do the audio. I need to do a whole audio balancing thing, to avoid the Suikoden 5 problem. I need to, properly process and modulate and make sure to level everyone out, and I need to make sure that everything's smooth, and I need to make sure that everything transferred from the old computer to the new computer. Thank you, Ciela, as always. And if I didn't say it earlier, thank you, Mr. Red. I actually don't remember if I said it, but I did write it down. Thank you, both of you, for your sub. Mr. Red, I've already put you towards FF13. And Ciela is going to be Lunair's pick. So, yeah, it is astonishingly frustrating. So, I'm probably not going to do a theater after the Undertale theater, which is a shame, because there were many more I was actually hoping to do. Now, just because it's me and I feel like being totally honest about it, someday it would be nice to actually do a proper theater kind of a deal, after that, which would be awesome and fun and amazing, and will probably never happen because that would take money, and money. However, assuming I ever do win the lottery, I'm going to tell you guys right now, making actual theaters is probably something I'm going to do. Time? Actually, believe it or not, time isn't really all that problematic. Money is the problem, because we would need to pay for flight tickets, and we would need to pay for renting booths. Because what would happen is either people would fly out to me, depending on availability, or I would fly out to them. And I would sit down, and I could go out to Lunairith right now, and I'd be like, hey, what's up? And she'd be like, hey, what's up? We'd shake hands, or whatever is acceptable at this point in time. I guess at the moment it would be like waving from 6 feet away. I'm talking years in the future, so who knows at that point. And then, we'd go to a local recording studio that we'd rent for like the day or the evening. And sitting down and recording lines, and especially with the director right there, doesn't actually take all that long, believe it or not. It's just there's a whole other bunch of post stuff that has to be done. But getting that core lines, yeah, couple days, record, stay at the hotel, come back, record some more, boom. Yeah, exactly, Loreweek. It's a completely different process doing it that way. So, that would be how I would do the theater in the future. Go out, rent a place, record, take the footage, take the recordings, fly back, and then start editing and rendering and all that fun stuff. That's why that would take more money than it would time. Because flight tickets are expensive. And renting a recording studio isn't actually that expensive, but the tickets and the hotels, that would be expensive. I'm getting way off topic. Let's actually talk about news you guys care about. So, Sephiroth is in Smash. Woo. Cyberpunk. Woo. So here's a fun one. The FCC... I'm pausing here to see what your guys' immediate knee-jerk reaction to me starting a news item with the FCC. If I built my own booth, well, A, I want to do that anyways long-term, and B, that would still involve plane tickets. AKA the most expensive thing. Anyways, now that I've said that, the FCC has awarded several large grants to several internet companies. Most notably SpaceX, in order to expand their satellite internet option. Let's see, there's someone else too. Who else is getting it? I think it's Amazon. Yeah, Amazon. Because Amazon needs more money, right? But they have gotten a fairly large grant. It's $9.2 billion, which is being distributed across... I don't have the full list in front of me. This is why I hesitated after saying FCC ... Because this is actually probably a very good thing. Now, let's rewind for a second here. Wing Commander 4, you got it. Oh, and thank you, Tormacris, for the sub. If I didn't say it, I'm sorry. I'm really distracted right now because I'm an idiot. So these grants are... Let's explain this really quick. Grants are gifts. There's no strings attached. Okay? If I am the Empire and I give a grant to Hazardous, he can do whatever he wants with that. Here's $50, Hazardous. Hazardous can go do whatever he wants with that. He is under no legal obligation. He is under no restrictions. It is not something that has an oversight. It is a gift, the end. Now, that's why this might actually be a bad thing. Because grants are, they can do whatever they want with it. And if you have paid attention to your history, you may or may not be aware of the fact that the United States government has actually given rather large grants to IPs several times in the past. Notably, Comcast is one of the big ones. And you know what they did with that money? Yeah. Now, having said that, there is another niggle to grants which is relevant. And that niggle is the fact that you have to apply for grants. They're not just given. Government grants aren't, it's not just like somebody, it's not like Emperor Palpatine says, you know what, I feel like giving money to Micromono. Here you go, Micromono. Take this and take your rightful place at my side. No, it doesn't happen that way. Instead, what happens is there is a huge, very difficult, very irritating process by which companies will go through in order to apply for grants. When I say irritating, I mean there are lawyers who make their living applying for grants for other people. Use my finances, I beg you. So, that means that all of these companies... here we go. Rural Electric... Okay, so SpaceX, Charter Communications, LTD Broadband, and Rural Electric Cooperative Consortium. That's the list. This group are the group of people who have applied for this grant and have successfully gotten this grant. That's the controlling factor. Whether that's acceptable or not, that's up to you. You know, that's a political question, not a controversial one. Just a political one, because, you know, that is a matter of opinion at that point. Is that an acceptable measure to decide to limit a grant? In other words, they front load the limitation rather than back load it. Make sense? So, who knows if those groups will actually allocate those funds in the manner that they were applied for. However, it is also worth noting that, you know, SpaceX has been rather significantly pushing the satellite internet thing for some time now, and indeed they recently received approval, here it is, to launch another 12,000 satellites, which they're going to be doing, and they're actually hoping to open up the beta for their service just next year with regards to the satellite internet. So, who knows? I actually have been a big proponent of satellite internet for years now. And indeed, I've said before, if I took over the world, it's something I would be pushing for. So, I'm down for this. And if you don't understand the point, well, nothing's ever going to really replace hard OC12s and cable lines. That's more a thing for... the amount of real estate a cable internet connection, a pipe, can reach is actually minuscule percentage-wise to how much terrain just there is. Like, you just look at any state in the United States, and you look at the cities, and you think, okay, well, those cities are totally covered by X, Y, and Z. Not really, Micromon, at least not here in the States. Not in any way that is a functional internet, would be how I'd answer that. So that is like less than 1% of the terrain of this state is covered by those cities that actually have pipes. I'm not even exaggerating. It's less than 1% of the total real estate, the total acreage, or whatever you would call that. So, obviously, there's a huge amount of just empty terrain, but there's also plenty of people who live outside of those zones, and that is the general purpose of this kind of satellite internet. And yes, satellite internet also serves as a backup in case anything happens to pipes, which indeed has happened in real life. I have actually been physically present for one of those incidents, as I've talked about before, when an OC-12 got cut over in Kansas City. So, point being, this is something that I am absolutely in favor of. The catch is this: there's degrees of technology, quality, and distribution which need to be solved. This is why I say to Mike Romano, we don't, at least here in the States, have what I would call functional internet. We have absolutely terrible internet. We have check your email internet when it comes to satellite. No. Imperial Star Destroyer. We're fine. We're cool. We're cool. Solvable problems. What's next? Is that it for non-gaming news? I think it's actually it for non-gaming news. So let's go down the gaming news. I've been kind of holding off on this because we're just going to kind of rapid fire these. In fact, I'm going to make a note in my notes right here. How many of you remember Perfect Dark? Nobody answers. So, there's a new Perfect Dark game coming out by a group called The Initiative. And that's actually kind of cool. I was never a fan of Perfect Dark myself. But, you know, it's by all accounts one of the better N64 games. So, woo. Wow, it is NOZ. Look, I'm just saying. Now, this group is not Rare. However, they do seem to have several people from the old Rare working for them. That may or may not be a good thing, but what's interesting to me is that it's not Rare at all, because Rare still exists as a company. It's The Initiative is the name of the company. And they're the ones pushing the new Perfect Dark. It sounds like a good thing, legitimately. Like I said, they brought some of the old devs back. I know, right, Mike Romano? The Initiative is making the Perfect Dark. Just think about it. But yeah, some of the old dev team is back. They seem to really care about this. As much as I have make fun of many, many companies, including Microsoft, as I've said before, Microsoft is actually one of the better ones, and they are pushing some financial weight behind this one. So, woo! Looks good. Speaking of which, there's a new Ghosts and Goblins game that has been announced and is out? I actually don't remember if it's out yet or not. God, I had so many news items to check this morning. Hang on. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. Hang on a second. Just give me a moment. There it is. No, it's not out. It's not out. February 25th. There it is. Didn't write it down. February 25th is when that's coming out. It actually looks really good, in all sincerity. We were actually talking about Ghosts and Goblins just yesterday while we were streaming Suikoden 5. And it was always one of those games that was a uniquely hard game because it was both designed to be hard and badly designed. However, I've watched the gameplay footage because it's a Nintendo Switch trailer, so of course it's basically nothing but gameplay footage. Shade, shade, shade. And as a direct consequence of that, looking at this gameplay, it looks pretty good. Like, I'm actually excited to play it. And in fact, if I haven't yet, I may not have, because I may have forgotten to. I want to add it to my list, which may or may not ever be a thing. Not the last game that has been added to my list. Looks like I didn't add it, so I'll add Ghosts, Goblins. What's the exact name here? Resurrection. There we go. Added to my list. Okay, next thing. Oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid movie. I already talked about that. I already talked about that last week, Jordan. So that's not news. It's last week's news. There is my... Oh my god, I have so many tabs up right now. Hang on. As a fresh reminder, if you send me whispers, you have to tell me you send me whispers, because I don't get notifications for those. I have to go manually check those. Which I don't mind doing, I just have to do that. I have many whispers. Hang on a second. What are we looking at here? Ah. Okay, so first of all, no, I will not be getting it for free because I don't support the Epic Game Store. However, I already own Tyranny. In fact, I've already streamed Tyranny, so no worries on that front. Nevertheless, thank you. Let's go ahead and just pause here before we talk about Fallout. Thank you very, very much, Pilot Shows. I better see some stream breaks in chat. Always appreciate very, very much. Thank you, Palachos. I will put that towards Tyranny. Put it up here. No, I've never reviewed Tyranny, so I'm fine with that. This one is specifically Ascension. Or Accession, or however you're supposed to pronounce it. I think it's Ascension. From Oblivion. Thank you, Pelachos, very, very much. Words. I've lost all my notes. Hang on. So put this away. This here. Fallout New Vegas. How many of you guys like Fallout New Vegas? Yes, we will continue the Glare Silently playthrough. We might actually do that this time. No, we probably won't, because, you know... Well, it depends on which ending we go for, because we only did the one ending last time. Yes, I actually... Okay, you remember how I started this Loreweek by mentioning that the list is open and has been for 37 days, and I specifically said that because people still asked? Exhibit A, Paranoid Android asks if the list is open. The answer is yes, the list is open. Fallout New Vegas has a mod called The Frontier. I imagine several of you have heard of The Frontier. I'm actually only distantly aware of The Frontier myself, but it is something that I'm aware of. I know, Paranoid. I'm not actually making fun. That's why I find it funny. If I was actually making fun, I'd be a lot crueler about it. It is not out. It is supposed to be released this month, but it actually has its own Steam page now, which, as much as Steam does a lot of raise eyebrow things, I do have to admit, I do like the fact that they do things like this, where they will give a mod, you know, a large-scale mod, its own page on Steam. It even has its own little thing. This is a community-made mod. It requires you on this game. Here's how, and there's a little information thing you can click. It's just cool. It's cool. But, yes, I have played Hitman 2. I have actually reviewed Hitman 2 as well. So, that's a thing we actually do have a review of. Anyways, the point being, New Frontier, or The Frontier, excuse me, New Vegas, The New Vegas, The Frontier. I can't talk this morning. Looks legit, and it's got its own Steam page, and that's really all I want to mention. It's supposed to come out this month. We'll see. Meanwhile, speaking of good news, Yakuza is getting a release on the Game Pass, Windows Store, and Steam. So on the Xboxies, I'm not sure which exactly. I know Xbox One and forward at least. And on Windows 10 and on anybody who has access to Steam, you can get, that's Yakuza Remastered 3, 4, and 5, as well as Yakuza 6. 3, 4, and 5 are going to be released as a collection and separately on January 28th, and 6 will be released on March 25th. That's awesome. So, next little tidbit here is Jeremy B. 1982. Thank you very, very much for that sub. Always appreciate those. Thank you. If you want to put that towards something, please let me know. Yeah, the Yakuza, the Yakuza games have been awesome. To date. So, hoip. Jeremy 1982, there it is. Yeah, Sega has been going full hog, and I'm totally down for it. Capcom has been leaning in that direction too, so yes, thank you, both of you companies, for figuring out what the hell you're doing on this. Let's see here. So next game I have to mention is Ruined King. How many of you know what this is before I talk about it? Because this isn't an announcement, this is more like a actual info thing. As in, this is a game that's already been teased. Plague Tale Innocence. Isn't that funded? I'm 99% certain that's funded. Let's go to lorerunner.com/upcoming Plague. There it is. It's 14th on the list. I even add numbers. Some of you probably haven't noticed, so that it's easier to keep track of the list. So the 14th game we'll be streaming is Plague Tale Innocence. Yeah, that's about what I've been hearing, Venetia. Although it looks like a decent skin. That's strange. It looks actually surprisingly fun. It's a single-player game, effectively based on League of Legends. You know, it's the same kind of over thing, but you know, there's actual traps and platforming. There's towns, quests. There's a turn-based combat system, which seems very FF10 in style. It looks surprisingly good. So we'll see if anything actually comes of that. But I wanted to mention that. Oh, it is actually set in the setting of League of Legends too, and will be, you know, actually have a single-player campaign. So that's cool. Speaking of, you got it, Jeremy. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1. Yeah, Bilgewater, exactly. Like I said, it actually looks pretty cool, so we'll see when we get closer to its actual release date. Elder Scrolls Online is getting its next major expansion arc. I gotta say it that way, because the expansion arc... I know, we have a lot of games we've covered, Pilot Shaws. The way ESO does things is actually kind of weird. They release expansions, but then those expansions kind of have arcs of expansioniness. Basically, what they do is kind of the... I don't want to say the opposite. They do something close to what FF14 does, is probably a good way to explain that. There's an expansion, but then there's several patches that are baked into that expansion. And then there's another expansion, then several patches baked in. You might be like, well, doesn't WoW do that? WoW tends to front-load a lot of its content. If you were to percentage the content an expansion has in WoW, it's like this. And then the expansions tend to be more like this. So the overwhelming majority of new content in a World of Warcraft expansion is released when the expansion goes live. So different approaches there. Anyways... This one is called Gates of Oblivion. There's actually very little information shared. We do know it's going to be going to the Deadlands, and we do know it's going to be involving Mehrunes Dagon. Now, we also know that they're going to reveal... This is kind of it, but they did flat out say they're going to have an info stream on January 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or excuse me, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitch. So more info about that in a little over a month. Meanwhile, I'm sure some people like Among Us. Maybe. It might not be a good game. I don't know. Does anybody like Among Us? There's a new map coming out called The Airship, which is going to involve new tasks, new methods of transportation, and a substantially heavier steampunk vibe. It's also something they've been working on for a bit now. It's just they were showing it off in more detail. Also Among Us Game of the Year. Anyways... What's a friend? So, I actually don't have anything else to add to that, but it was an announcement, and I imagine at least some people care. Speaking of, there's another game that was announced called Evil West. Now, the teaser was pure CGI, so who cares? But they did release some information about it. Evil West is a cowboy Wild West game where you use various gadgets, including a lightning gauntlet, in order to go about and kill vampires and their minions in order to save the Wild West. So the premise sounds cool, is what I'm trying to say. Now, what's interesting is in their little informational blurb, they mentioned there's a single-player campaign, period, space, and then there's cooperative multiplayer. So that kind of sucks a little bit, because that sounds like the game will not actually have proper co-op, but instead will have, or excuse me, will not have proper campaign co-op. We'll simply have a co-op mode, probably some kind of arena match kind of thing, or not arena, what do you call that? Horde mode kind of a thing, something like that. Either way, unfortunately, not a lot of info on this one, because this is just a teaser, so let's move on to Season. Season is an exploration game. The goal of Season is to go around on a bicycle on a world that is astonishingly stagnant. And apparently there was something called the Collapse in the background of this setting. Very, very few details right now, obviously, but the Collapse led to nobody innovating or making or building or whatever. And as a direct consequence, you're running around trying to document, write down, and sketch all of the things you do. It's literally an exploration em-up. You go around and you explore and you find things and you document things. And there's a story there, obviously, to figure out what's going on with the collapse and hopefully prevent a new collapse. Then there's a game that was mentioned, which I actually have put onto my list by the developers who made Valiant Hearts. This game is called Road 96. Yeah, I know, right, Shikor? Road 96 is a game in which you play someone who is fleeing from a tyrannical dictatorship. Your goal is to cross the border. Now, that's it. However, it is a procedural game. That is to say, it is a sort of a roguelite kind of a thing. And so that just sounds incredibly awesome to me. I don't even know how to explain it. But, you know, you start off under a randomized circumstance, and you have to go through randomized circumstances in order to get out. You know, you can try to hitch a ride, you can try to walk, you can try to run, you can try to take different routes, you can try to steal a car, you can try to steal a cop car, etc., etc., etc. It's a roguelite escape 'em up. You know, it sounds really cool, so it's on my list, and hopefully that's going to be cool whenever that comes out. Road 96 is the name of the game act. Road 96. Meanwhile, Super Meat Boy Forever is actually coming out in 10 days, next Wednesday. Road-like. Now, for those of you, I mean, I imagine most of you don't care, I shouldn't say that, but Super Meat Boy Forever has been in development for a long time at this point, and it's been just kind of sitting in development hell for a long time. So for them to announce last Thursday that it's coming out in 2 Wednesdays was kind of an awesome thing. I also have to share something, and I have it somewhere. I have so many tabs up, but here it is. Check this out. This is a tweet from, when was this? April of last year, okay? Check this out for a second. We've been knocking out the last bits of Super Meat Boy Forever at record speeds while keeping a healthy and sustainable pace. We are going to keep that pace, which means we are not going to hit the April release. Sorry about that. We could have sacrificed our minds, bodies, and social lives to make April 2019, but that's stupid. Team Meat isn't owned by an evil asshat corporation that has say over what we do and how we do it. We are fortunate enough to have control over how we work and choose not to run ourselves into the ground. So, game delays blow, we know, but we're close, and it shouldn't be too long of a delay. It was a year and a half. The next trailer we drop will have a concrete launch date. Make of that what you will, but I actually kind of thought that was awesome. I would legitimately rather they take their time and not destroy their quality of life, even if it means a year and a half delay. Moving on. Ark 2 was announced. How many of you played Ark? Ark Survival, I think, was the full name of the game. Something like that. I never played Ark, so I don't really know anything about it. I am ignorant. It's, I don't even know what type of game it is. But Ark 2 has been announced. And it's starring Vin Diesel. It's very Vin Diesel-y. I don't actually know what else to add to that. It looks weird. I don't know. It is also probably worth noting that there is an Arc animated series which has also been announced, which is very anime in overall style, so that should be rather popular. And they're releasing that too alongside it. So that's interesting. I'm really not sure what I think of that. Which I suppose leads us to the next game. Like I said, I don't have anything else to add to this. So, next game I mentioned. How many of you remember Dungeon of the Endless? We actually streamed that game. We didn't review it, but we streamed it. That was a game set in the Endless universe. You know, Endless... Endless Legend and Endless... I can't remember the name of the other one. Oh my god. What's the name of the space one? Is it just Endless Space? It is Space. Yeah, okay. So Endless Legend 2, Endless Space. Anyways. Yeah, no kidding. I agree, Hazardous, but that's just me. Anyway, so yeah, Dungeon of the Endless was a game that was a dungeon crawler roguelite combined with tower defense mechanics. Endless Dungeon was just announced, which is a tower defense with roguelike dungeon crawler elements. We actually know very little about it, but it is a straight sequel, by all accounts, to Dungeon of the Endless. Which is interesting. Near as I can tell, though, and I haven't been able to get concrete information on this, but it looks like the Endless devs were working on this as a pet project for fun on the side. Because most of the Endless devs are working on Humankind right now, which is a massive 4X game, which may or may not be any good, but I've been keeping on my radar for a while, so we'll see when we get there. Disco Elysium, aka the best RPG I will never play again, and literally caused me mental health issues, is getting a content patch, which in addition to having new stuff to do, no story elements, new quests, is also including additional voice acting that's been recorded for the game, so that's cool. It's free, by the way. How many of you have played Black Desert Online? Go ahead and raise my hand on that one, because I actually have played Black Desert Online. I was not impressed with it. I was so unimpressed with it that after doing a look into it, I recommend it that me and my friends not play it. Nevertheless, it is, you know, it is what it is, and I'm sure several people enjoy it. Crimson Desert was just announced. It is going to be, it's effectively, in all intents and purposes, Black Desert Online 2. The combat is much shakier and much blurrier, much more combo-based, and the big thing they're pushing in all of the interviews and all of the marketing material is how much more story-focused it's going to be, which is interesting. That's all I have for that one, unfortunately. How many of you guys liked Dead Space? No one? I'm just kidding. Dead Space 2 was quite amusing. Now, anybody who likes Dead Space knows everything I'm about to say in extreme truncation, but Dead Space 3 came out, kind of flopped, and then Visceral was shut down. The Visceral devs wandered over to make a new studio called Striking Distance Studios. Who comes up with these names? And they have just announced the Callisto Protocol, which is the spiritual successor to Dead Space. It is them attempting to make a horror game in the manner that they wished to, that they were no longer allowed to because EA. Reminder, EA is one of the least bad companies out there when it comes to game publishers. Either way, just thought I'd share that. This is the only trailer and video clip I did not watch for this particular bundle because I don't like watching zombies puke on people's faces. Let's see. 3 other games here. Loop Hero. No, there's a zombie who pukes on someone's face in it. Loop Hero was announced. This is... Oh, I didn't write down their name. Hang on. Who developed this? So Digital Devolver is... Devolver Digital. I always screw that up. Devolver Digital is publishing... But I'm trying to remember who the actual developer is. Is this them? Yeah, 4 Quarters. Okay. Four Quarters is the development studio that's pushing this out. Now, this looks like a relatively short, trying a new concept game, but the concept looks incredibly interesting to me. It's called Loop Hero, if I didn't say that already. You have a deck of cards, and you play a card to place a tile, and what you have to do is you have to design a loop. Once you finish designing the loop, the hero runs through the loop and goes through all the things you've placed. So, enemy, treasure, town, and you place terrain tiles, which change modifiers, and you place, like an inn here so they can recover. It's kind of like Lemmings, but more awesome in every way. The whole goal, narratively speaking, is to defeat the loop. In other words, to break the loop. There's a lich who has cast a curse on the terrain, and that's why the loop is actually happening. Near as I can tell, it looks like we're actually playing the lich, but let's not get into that. It looks very, very cool, and it's also one of the games that got added to my list as a game I would love to stream someday. Yeah, I will admit, however, the pixel art does not look good. As we've talked before, there's good pixel art and there's bad pixel art. This looks like bad pixel art. But the game concept is absolutely fascinating, so I'm at least going to keep an eye on this one. For those of you who like multiplayer games, we also have Century Age of Ashes. It looks very cool. However, they showed off mostly Flash and scripted gameplay, so I can't speak to how cool it actually is. Nevertheless, it is a third-person Dragon Combat multiplayer arena game, where you fly around, rather large, expansive, open areas in order to fight and kill other dragons. You have claws and fireballs and special abilities and blah, 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 blah. Now, the moment it was a multiplayer-focused battle arena was pretty much the exact moment that I stopped caring, but it does look very cool, so anybody interested in that kind of competitive multiplayer stuff, I thought I'd throw that on your radar. Can you play as Smaug? Probably not, but I do want to say thank you to Slime Time. Always appreciate those subs. Thank you. If you want to put that towards something, please let me know. Dead Space 3? Sure. I can do that. We're going to play Dead Space 2 and 3 before we play 1, guys. It's going to be great. I love it. So that's going to go up here. Let me erase Tyranny. And put Dead Space 3 instead. Now, speaking of games, this is a PlayStation game. I don't know why I'm clarifying that. It looks like it's a game that's coming out on other things too, but Sony was the one who pushed this one out. It's called Fist, F-I-S-T, no relation to the movie of the exact same name. This is a game set in an anthropomorphic world where you play a bunny with a giant mechanical fist, hence the title. It is a Metroidvania game with focus on combo combat, side-scroller platforming set in a 2.5D setting. It looks really, really cool. You guys know me, Metroidvanias are kind of one of my bags, along with Mega Man games, but it does actually look legitimately rather fun. So, hopeful for that one. That one has also been added to my list. Mega Man Vania. That would be Mega Man XZ2, I believe. But yes, I agree. We need more of that. Shadowlands. You got it, Slime Time. And thank you for the next sub as well. And thank you, SJ, for the sub. I do appreciate much. Thank you. If you know where you want that one to go, please let me know. I've thought about a solution for the bouncing on the camera, but it's going to take some work and some effort and some weird, and I'm going to need to get a stand that's large enough and long enough. So no bets on that, so for now you get to live with the bounce. 3 more. Evil Dead. We're getting an Evil Dead game. Bruce Campbell will be doing some voice acting for it. And it is set in, near as I can tell, a amalgamation of the 2 Evil Dead movies, as in 2 and 3 specifically. There is a chainsaw arm, there's a knight, there's some driving mechanics. But what's really... I mean, it sounds cool, but the problem is they only showed, and I counted, 7 seconds of actual gameplay footage. So forgive me for not having much to share about this one. Nevertheless, it looks like a third-person Left 4 Dead style game where you are co-op killing, etc. So that sounds awesome. We'll see what they go. Again, this is just kind of a teaser, so not a lot of info yet. However, that's the first co-op game. The next co-op game I have to talk about is It Takes Two. Dawn of War 1. You got it. Dawn of War. It Takes Two is... this is actually a game that was already announced, but they showed a lot more info about this one and a lot more gameplay. This is a third-person puzzle platformer with action platformer elements where you play two people who have to co-op their way through puzzles and bosses and all sorts of stuff like that. And God, it just looks so good. It looks really, really, really good. They showed off a lot of the puzzle platforming and a lot of the action platforming and a couple of the boss fights. And when I say it's co-op, I mean this is one of those games that, no, really, you absolutely are going to need another person to play it with. And that, I mean, kind of sucks, but at the same time is super duper awesome. The premise is that it's either in a kid's imagination or two parents who are splitting up and are getting a divorce are now forced into being magically dolls who have to cooperate in order to survive. That's the general premise. I don't actually have much else to add from it. Of course, there will be a link to the VOD down below. But regardless, it's very wacky and the gameplay looks absolutely phenomenal. Portal 2's co-op campaign was my bag. I absolutely loved that, and I would love more of that in the future. So, by the way, this is from the same developers who made the game whose name I can't think of. It's the other co-op mandated game where you played two people who are trying to escape from prison. And I don't remember the name of it for some freaking reason. We actually have talked... Yeah, the Jailbreak one. The Jailbreak one. It's the same devs, same team. And so this is their second attack at a co-op focused game. Was it A Way Out? I don't remember. I never actually played it. Either way, speaking of co-op, I got one more co-op game for you. Back 4 Blood, which is Left 4 Dead... It's Left 4 Dead 3. It's Left 4 Dead 3. You literally just had to say Left 4 Dead 3, and I'm sold. And I am sold. I am buying this game. But they've also had a brief interview where they talked about it, and they mentioned how it's going to be Left 4 Dead 2, but more missions, more story focus, more variety to the types of zombies. Sold. You really don't have to tell me anything else there. There's a lot of games in this list that are interesting to me. Back 4 Blood is probably at the top of that list. I absolutely adored Left 4 Dead, and I used to play the crap out of it with my friends. So, yes, please. I think that's it for the game. Yeah, that's it. That's it for the games. Holy crap. No, I bought Disney, Malachor. Speaking of which, let's talk about Star Wars. Oh yeah, by the way, one last thing about Back 4 Blood. The trailer actually showed freaking gameplay. So, Star Wars stuff. Oh my god, so there is where do I even begin? I'm probably gonna miss some things because they announced so much stuff. There's a new film, there's a new film, there's a new show, there's a new show, there's a new show. Hang on, where's the actual list? Actually, halfway through my notes, I gave up and decided to do this separate from this. Where is the list? Here it is. Okay, so we got film, show, TV miniseries, show, cartoon, animated show, animated show. There you go. That's what was announced. Now, let's rewind a second here. So first we have Rogue Squadron. This is a film that's going to be headed by Patty Jenkins, who you may know from the Wonder Woman franchise. I'm actually legitimately excited about this. We know basically nothing about it. We do know it is going to be centered on Rogue Squadron. Duh. And we do know it's going to be very focused on the fighter pilots and their and just the dogfighting. It's going to be a dogfighting movie. Yes. Patty Jenkins herself actually released a video, which I will put a separate link in the VOD. But the separate link is going to be the video that she mentioned where she announces it, and she talks about how her father was a dogfighter pilot and how much she thought that was awesome and how she's been into that since she was a kid. And so she geeks out, basically. She geeks out on it, and it actually sounds kind of legit. And so she's really happy about that. I'm really happy about that. Here's hoping. We also have a Taika Waititi film. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You may or may not know him as the director behind Thor 3, a film that some people loved and some people hated. We don't know anything about this other than the fact that he is the one who is going to be the showrunner for that particular film. So, that's a thing. We also know more, so we actually already know, yes, the 18th, Pilot Shots, this coming Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Obi-Wan show, which has already been announced, obviously, is something that we got a little bit more information on. This is probably old news to all of you, but Hayden Christensen has confirmed he will, in fact, be back for this. They're also sharing a lot of the behind-the-scenes developers is the wrong word, creative staff from the people who've been working on The Mandalorian. Some of the oh my god. Some of the camera people, the lighting people, the directors, and the writers from Mandalorian are also going to be working on Obi-Wan Kenobi. They have actually already started work on this, yada yada yada. I do want to mention one thing. The fact that Hayden Christensen is going to be present, that shouldn't be. To me, implies flashbacks. One moment. That shouldn't be. Ah. That's probably what is happening here. Well, thank you for helping me to diagnose a problem with my thing, Silver Mask. I do appreciate the help with that. Oh, and also the donation. Thank you, Silver Mask. As always. I've never even heard of that. So, let me finish the Star Wars news. I'll come back to that, because I've never even heard of that game. I gotta find my link again. Okay, here we go. So, blah, 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 blah. Yes, Ewan McGregor is, of course, coming back to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Duh. Deborah Chow's going to be directing it, who has also worked with... I already mentioned that, the Mandalorian thing. Whatever, moving on. There's also an Ahsoka show. This is going to be what they call a limited series, which is basically the idea of... what do you call that? I can't remember what the term is for that right now. I'm so... The thing with Silver Mask really threw me. It's a thing where it's not a show, but it's not a movie, but it's on TV. They did that with Battlestar Galactica. They did it with the miniseries, a TV miniseries or whatever. The Ahsoka thing is going to be a miniseries, by all accounts. It's going to be starring Ahsoka Tano with Rosario Dawson replaying her, of course. David Felony and Jon Favreau will be working on it. David Felony himself will be writing it. Awesome. I am one of those people who is actually a big fan of Filoni's work and Favreau's work. So, you know, sure, sold. I have not watched Mandalorian. No, of course not. But yeah, sounds awesome. Moving on. Next we have Dangers of the New Republic. Now, this is a weird one. This is set during The Mandalorian. It's another live-action series. It'll be by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And the idea is, from what I've seen of this, they are wanting this to slide in and out. Oh, I'm sorry, that does say Rangers. That does not look like an R to me. Wow. Rangers of the New Republic, which sounds a lot less interesting. But it is going to be set during The Mandalorian. It's supposed to weave in and out of The Mandalorian. And it's supposed to establish for future stories. Who knows where they'll go with that one. I'm not there yet, Zach Dev. Patience, man. Patience. Calm down. Calm down. Then we have Lando. Or Lando, if you prefer. This is they call this an event series? I have no idea what that is. What I do know is that Justin Simien is going to be the one who is headlining this, and it's going to be something that's going to be released on Disney+, and it's going to be starring Lando Calrissian, and that's about all I have. Yeah, give me Donald Glover, and I'm probably sold regardless, because he's awesome. Meanwhile, Andor, which is something we've actually known about for a very long time at this point, is still being pushed out. That's Tony Gilroy is the one who's pushing this one out. It's still starring Diego Luna, who's the guy who plays Cassian Andor from Rogue One. The cast is going to include some people like Stellan Skarsgård, which is awesome, Adria Arjona, Fiona Shaw, Denise Gao, Kyle Soller, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, who's playing Mon Mothma. They've actually already started production on that one. So hopefully that will be cool. Scroll down a bit. Then we have The Acolyte. We know very little about, about several of these ones. So Leslie Headland, who made Russian Doll, is making this series. It is supposed to be a mystery thriller set during the High Republic era. Totally not going to have to do with Darth Plagueis. And it's going to be all about the emerging dark side powers and shadowy secrets. It's totally going to be about Darth Plagueis. I didn't say that, but, I mean, come on. Then there's something called Bad Batch, which we're just going to ignore. Then we've got... No, I'm kidding. So Bad Batch is actually something they announced earlier. This is their first animated series. It is something that follows the Bad Batch. A group of people I know nothing about because I haven't seen Season 7 of Clone Wars and probably won't for a very long time. They're a unique squad of soldiers who are genetically different from their people, apparently. Anyways, the point is, this is following after the events of the Clone Wars. There is a trailer for it. There's a trailer for a lot of these things. I'm not linking all of this stuff in chat. But apparently they're going to go on and become mercenaries, and it's done in the style of the old thing and blah, blah, blah. It looks like a continuation of Clone Wars sold, really, is all I really need to know there, because I actually rather liked Clone Wars, warts and all. Same thing with Rebels, to be completely honest. Then we have Visions, because the Animatrix was popular. How many of you remember that? Star Wars Visions, which is an animated series of short films celebrating Star Wars through the lens of the world's best anime creators. It'll be an anthology, which will include 10 separate anime things from leading Japanese anime studios. It's the Animatrix. It's Star Wars' The Animatrix. That's what it is. Now, that sounds awesome, I'm sure, I guess. I don't know. I actually really didn't like The Animatrix, but, you know, I imagine a lot of people will be substantially more positively inclined towards that, so that's awesome, too. Next, and indeed last, we have A Droid Story. A Droid Story is going to be weird. It's animation team, but they haven't said if it's going to be 3D or 2D. It is being done under ILM, but it's going to be on Disney Plus, and it's going to involve droids, and that's about all we really know about it, to be completely honest with you. Very, very, very little information about that. Also, some other stuff no one cares about. You got a USB cable with me. I don't have a preference, Sonic Doctor. Really. As long as it's not anime style, I'm down. So, that's all the Star Wars news. My goodness, there was a bunch there, too. Thanks, Disney. I do have one thing to comment on there. Actually, two things, I should say. First comment. I already made this comment, but I want to be clear that I wasn't just memeing. Film, show. So film, show, and then the miniseries. So that's 8 shows, 2 miniseries, and 2 movies. I've already commented on this before about how they're going a lot more heavily into television than they are into movies, and that's probably a very good move, and that probably has been a good move for a few years now. You'll notice the MCU is doing in the exact same direction, by the way. There's apparently MCU news. Hang on, let's go Google that right now. MCU news. What do we got here? I legitimately didn't see any, so... Oh, I did see the Loki thing, though. I just forgot about it. Christ. There's too much news this week. Okay, let's rewind a second. Yeah, I didn't even see this. This didn't even hit any of my radars. And I trawl for news daily. And I didn't see anything about the MCU news except for the Loki thing. Whatever, let's finish talking about Star Wars. Shows. They're focusing very heavily on shows. That makes sense. I'm with it. I think it's a good move. The question is, how much is too much? Now, this is an interesting problem to run into, because I understand that some people do have fatigue issues, but I don't. And more to the point, statistically speaking, the finances prove that fatigue issues aren't really a thing either, which is something I'll talk about next year during the Star Wars A Solo Story, whatever it's called, Rumination, which is early next year. I forget exactly what it is. No, hazardous. So, in short, I don't think too much Star Wars is a bad thing. Just like, and if I might use a parallel here, it's the exact same reason I don't think there's such a thing as a game that is too long. There's a game that doesn't use its length properly. But then there's a game that does use its length properly. And that is a completely separate factor from how long the game is. It's the exact same mentality. It doesn't matter how much stuff is being pushed out. What matters is the quality of it. Is it good? Hey, it's good. Cool. That's right. And I know this isn't exclusive to me. I know it isn't. I have seen this amongst other people and exactly how they have responded to this. So whether or not this is too much Star Wars, I think, is basically the wrong question. I think the question is, will any of these be good? So let's rewind a bit and go through this in terms of quality. Now, I liked Wonder Woman quite a bit, and Patty Jenkins does seem to be legitimately geeking out about this. Unfortunately, we know so little about Rogue Squadron that really I can't judge on that one, so I have no idea. Taika Waititi is a very creative and entertaining director who knows what he's doing, but that's all we really know about that. We don't even know what the film he's making is, so again, can't really judge that one. We've actually known about the Kenobi show for some time. This is just another batch of info about the Kenobi show. So as a direct... That's true, Malachor. That is true. So as a direct consequence, we do have more information. We probably have the most information about the Kenobi show. We do know that they're sharing... well, let me build up to this point. We do know they're sharing several creative staff who know exactly what they're doing. We do know that the actors are on board and know what they're doing. We do know that, and yeah, I noticed that actually as this. We do know that there's been a decent amount of info that seems like the Kenobi show is probably going to be good. And following Kenobi's story in the gap makes sense. I've actually already commented on this before. If you pay attention to the AU and how it's been using its timeline, the ridiculous majority of stuff in the AU is set in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. There's stuff elsewhere, of course. They've got the High Republic series, they've got Mandalorian over here, they've got the sequel trilogy. But there is a huge chunk of shows and games and stuff that are set in the Dark Times. And it makes perfect sense. There is a gargantuan wealth of storytelling to be done in that period, and it was also one of the biggest holes with regards to, in the AU, with regards to storytelling. So setting Kenobi during that makes a huge amount of sense. Also, and I mentioned this earlier, but Justin just repeated it, Hayden is probably going to be doing flashbacks as well as being in the suit. Ahsoka, unfortunately we know nothing about that. However, I like Ahsoka, and I wanted her story to continue, so I'm down for that on that principle alone. It is, however, also going to be headlined by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Remember that. Rangers of the New Republic is, near as I can tell, being done entirely as a vehicle for setting up future stuff, which I'm okay with, because I love continuity as long as it's well done. Good continuity is better than bad continuity. And it's being headed by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. This is leading... This is where I'm going to go ahead and make my point. That's 3 separate shows that are going to be worked on by effectively the same team. Because that's Mandalorian... Excuse me. 4 shows. Sorry. Mandalorian, Kenobi, Ahsoka, and Rangers. All of those are being worked on by either the entirety of or the majority of the same team, the same development staff. That's problematic right there. I get the idea, and I even get the concept. It's like, oh man, yeah, you're talented, you're creative, go. But that can lead to very bad problems. And I was about to bring up TNG and Voyager. How many of you know who Brannon Braga is? He's a writer, producer for science fiction stuff. Now, on the off chance you don't know who he is, he started off as a low-tier script editor and then worked his way up to being a writer on Star Trek The Next Generation. He then became one of their main writer staff and became a producer and then an executive producer of Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Enterprise. Now, I actually like Braga a lot, but that is a new opinion, I'll freely admit. Going back through and reading up on and studying the backstory and the history of Voyager, TNG, and Enterprise has really made me feel so bad for that poor man. And this is exactly why. Because what happens is he got onto TNG, and he made several really good episodes. Some of my favorite TNG episodes are by Braga. And regardless of your opinion on their quality, they were very popular. So what happened was they said, oh, you're a talented creative writer, director, producer. Go make another one, and 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 another one. In Enterprise Season 1, there's a streak of, I believe, 22 episodes, please forgive me if I'm getting the exact number wrong, in a row that he wrote. Please picture that. I want you to sit down and picture writing 22 episodes of a television show in a row. This is my worry with regards to the Mandalorian team. Now, obviously, they're not at that stage yet. Yeah, that's Season 1, by the way. That's just Enterprise Season 1. And by the way, if that doesn't sound bad, do remember that he was already writing tons and tons of stuff in Voyager and late TNG. They started piling work on him in late TNG and for the movies, and then Voyager, and then Enterprise. So that was the last pile of gigantic work that was piled on top of him. Oh yeah, and Dave Filoni is involved in Bad Batch, you're right. I don't know who else is involved in Bad Batch, that's why I didn't add that one to the list of 4. So we'll see. I haven't even heard of that, Venetia, so I have no idea. Braga has actually gone on to do several things since then. Hang on. I can't remember the name of the series, but there's probably a series you might have actually seen. Oh, I'm well aware, Hazardous. I stand by my statement. What do you want from me, dude? This looks like the late TNG, is what this looks like to me, Hazardous. We're not at the point of Enterprise yet. I'm just saying that looks like this is what's happening. They're like, here, make this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And we might eventually work our way up to being at the Enterprise thing. So let's see. Braga has done work on The Orville. You've probably seen that one. But he also worked on 24, for good or for bad. Cosmos. He did 2 things with that. But there's another one that I wanted to mention. Is this it? Terra Nova? No, that's not it, although that was him. Flash Forward? Was that the one? That's not the one. There's some show he worked on which was actually really creative and cool, and I can't remember which one it was. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You can look it up if you want to. Moving on. The point is, I am hopeful that they will not burn out these people. But this is someone earlier asked the question, should these things be made? This worries me because it sounds very much like that is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to wring out as much of creative and talented people as they can in as short a period of time as possible, which is exactly what happened to Brandon Braga. Moving on. So, that's my thoughts on all those. The Lando show? I mean, Lando is one of my favorite characters from Star Wars, so yes, I'm automatically in favor of that. Moving on. The Andor show? I am once again automatically in favor of that because I think showing the more unpleasant, darker, and evil underbelly of the Rebel Alliance makes absolutely perfect sense, and frankly, I think we need more of that. It was one of my favorite aspects of Rogue One, which really just got kind of a brief cameo in Rogue One, but it was still very cool to see it there, so, again, automatically interested. The Acolyte, I mean, we know extremely little about the Acolyte, but I'm telling you, it's Darth Plagueis. I have to admit, though, of all of these shows, this is the one I am the least interested in. I know that I just said I'm not a big fatigue thing, but I do have to say, I kind of would like to see more Star Wars that doesn't involve Jedi. And so having something delve deeply into the Sith is just not something that's particularly interesting to me. If I want to see an in-depth, excellent Sith story, I will play The Old Republic. Hi, Savako. Bad Batch? Sold. Moving on. Visions, I already talked about that. That's probably a good thing, and it's actually... No, it's definitely a good thing. Reaching out and trying to get other people to create... Just saying, hey, make a story in Star Wars and do it in your style. That is a good thing to happen. I will not watch it. I do not care, and I am not interested in it. Droid Story, we know absolutely nothing about that other than the fact that it's animation and it's droids, so I can't speak to that. An actual droid thing? Sure. But we'll see what they actually do with it. And I think that's going down the list. No, Visions, I already said this. Visions is anime. It's the Animatrix, except in Star Wars. Nobody listens to me. It's literally... Here, let me quote word for word. Again. This will be a series of animated short films celebrating Star Wars through the lens of the world's best anime creators. The anthology collection will bring 10 fantastic visions from several of the leading Japanese anime studios. No, it's going to be the Animatrix. I bet that we'll have at least one story that has no dialogue at all. Just predicting it right now. There'll be one that's incredibly heart-moving and like gut-wrenchingly tragic. There'll be one that's really cutesy and lighthearted. There'll be a super awesome, badass battle sequence. There you go. I predict all of those are going to be at least one of the animes in this. Anyways. One of them will become a series later on. So, why no focus on Leia? I have no idea, Venetia, especially nowadays. I actually rather liked Leia back in the EU, but again, I liked several characters back in the EU. So what the hell do I know? Yeah, the soldier's gonna have his limb torn off, and there's just be blood everywhere, but then they'll see it's cybernetic underneath, and he'll be like, ha 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 ha, and then he turns, and there's actually a gun in his shoulder, and he'll shoot him. I'm making fun at this point. And there'll be a very stone-faced, serious one. That's probably a true thing, too. Alright, let's look at this MCU news. This is news to me, so I don't have any prepped notes here. Hang on. Okay, so, what do we got? Blah, 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 blah. WandaVision got a new trailer. Cool. Still. Coming out January 15th. There you go. WandaVision's coming out January 15th. Yay. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is coming out in March in 2 years. Got it. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is going to be streaming starting next March. Another show, by the way. So that's 2 shows, 1 film already. We should keep track here. In all honesty, a show starting the Falcon, hell yeah, I'm actually totally down for that. I don't remember the actor's name right now, but he did a damn good job of it, and I really like the Falcon as a character, so yeah, let's do it. Also, you notice that'll bring things more down low, which is interesting because the previous two things are bringing it up. Wanda is high tier, high concept, and Doctor Strange is as high tier and high concept as it gets, so bringing it down low with the Falcon, absolutely. The Loki show. Now, I actually have seen tidbits of this one. This is the only thing I saw in this. They actually showed actual footage from it. It looks like he's going to... I don't remember the name of the organization. It's actually from the Marvel Comics. It's the Multiverse Police. And it looks like Loki's getting recruited. This particular... The Time Variance Authority, the TVA, that's them. And it looks like Loki's getting recruited by them, and... Oh, God. It's just... Hang on, let's just mute this. Let's just do this live here. Hang on. Skip forward, skip forward. So he gets time displaced. He gets thrown off into the Gobi Desert. There's some Mandalorians. Wow. Mongolians for some reason. What is his name? The guy who plays Mobius and Mobius. Owen Wilson, that's it. Owen Wilson is playing his particular handler, which sounds highly amusing. We see the collar, which they use for people. Owen Wilson sounds amusing when it comes to this. Let's skip forward a little bit. We do have a caped figure who is going to be the villain, probably. I've heard people already theory crafting on who that could be. I don't actually personally know off the top of my head. But caped figure is going to be super evil, of course. We do have a bit where Loki is actually present in Tony Stark's office, which may or may not mean anything, but it does involve the possibility of more time travel. Yeah, I'm thinking Kang, to be completely honest. That would be the... I mean, there's been a lot of hints that they're going to go with Kang anyways. Let's see. There's little tidbits of him working with the organization. There's also a bit where he is being punished. There's a bit where he actually decides to fight someone with his knives. He looks awesome in a suit. I'm just saying, Tom Hiddleston looks amazing. There's a completely destroyed New York, including a shot of Avengers Tower shot. So there's our hook right there. Altering or messing with alternate timelines. Pretty much codified right there. Also, oh god, what was that one? Hang on. Give me a second. Is this it? No. There was a tiny tidbit. Here it is, here it is. I gotta get the name. Because some of you probably know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, there was a Black Widow thing in there too. D.B. Cooper, that's it. Apparently Loki was D.B. Cooper all along. So, in 1971, D.B. Cooper hijacked a Boeing 747 flight from Portland to Seattle, held his passengers hostage, wanted a ransom, received his money, jumped out of the plane, and was never seen again. It's actually one of those remaining mysteries in real life. So, yeah, Loki being that, we see Loki fighting a little bit. There's an alien thing. There's the passenger plane thing, which I just referenced. There's also him... He lost the money. There's also him lose... there's also a bit where he's apparently using the thing... I can't think of the name of. Oh my god. The thing Heimdall could use. God, I can't think of any names this morning. And of course, the title goes through several different letter variations of Loki. Oh, finally, there's also a bit where Loki says, you know, I'm going to run for president. At least it kind of looks like he's going to run for president. The Bifrost, thank you. And I mentioned that because that was actually a story arc in the comics where he did try to run for president. And his big running platform was, I will lie to your face. I will truthfully and overtly constantly lie in every conversation we have. Vote for me. Anyways. Shoot, now I've lost my notes. Hang on, hang on. I actually lost my notes. Where the heck did they go? Oh, that's right. I mean, it's true, Gramarin. That's legit. Alright, so, the Loki show. Allow me to say, of all of the MCU stuff coming out, the Loki show is the one I'm most interested in and most excited for. The WandaVision thing looks a little bit too trippy. The Doctor Strange thing sounds a little bit too trippy. The Captain Falcon thing sounds awesome, but we just don't know that much. Loki's an awesome character. Tom Hiddleston's an awesome character. And yeah, this is basically a what-if story. This is an Elseworlds. Speaking of which, that leads us to What If, which is an animated series, which I know absolutely nothing about. Mute. Sorry. Is this just Elseworlds shorts? Because there's like the English... Yeah, there's Peggy Carter, who is Captain England, I guess. T'Challa being Star-Lord. Yeah, no, so this is the Elseworlds series. It actually looks pretty cool. It's the cel-shaded CGI kind of animation thing. What I want to know is the format of it, which unfortunately I don't know. It is coming out in summer next year. But either way, it sounds cool, and I'm actually totally down. I like a good Elseworld story. There's a lot of things you can do. That Miss Union, or Captain Union Jack, yeah. Or Miss Union Jack, I like it. Either way, there's a lot of good stuff you can do with Elseworld stories, so absolutely. No, I have not, Paranoid Android. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I heard about this one already. I'm not sure what I think about it, but it is interesting to go further into the Ten Rings, since they've already pretty much flat out stated that the Ten Rings are an actual thing. So we'll see where they go with that one. What's this? Is this Miss Marvel? Yeah, Miss Marvel is getting a series. Sorry, so Shang-Chi is going to be a film. Sorry, let me clarify here. What If is going to be a series. Miss Marvel is going to be a series. Captain Marvel 2 is going to be a film. They apparently got a director on board. There's going to be a Hawkeye series. We're getting Kate Bishop. We were always figuring that would happen, so that's not a big surprise. There's going to be a She-Hulk comedy series. I mean, She-Hulk is a comedy in general, so that makes sense. I'm trying to find who they're getting to play. There it is. Tatiana Maslany, which doesn't sound familiar. Who are you? Do I know you? Have I seen you in anything? She's been in a bunch of shows I have not seen. I mean, that is kind of She-Hulk's thing. She's a little prolific. She-Hulk is going to be... Does it say? Hang on. Oh yeah, by the way, for those of you who know where She-Hulk, that is to say, Jennifer Walters, is actually a lawyer. Mark Ruffalo will apparently be in it. It doesn't say. It sounds like it's going to be live action. No, I agree, Hazardous. So, either way, that sounds cool. So it's Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Moon Knight. I don't know what that is. Multiple identities, Egyptian. I mean, okay. Directed by Mohammed Diab. I don't know much about this. I can't really speak to this. Probably Venetia, especially since those things don't usually tend to be connected. Secret Invasion. Oh. They're actually doing Secret Invasion. Not sure what I think of that. I admit I never liked the Secret Invasion arc, but the MCU has proven several times they can do arcs I didn't like well. So, yeah, I saw that, Justin. Don't like that, but whatever. I mean, I like Tim Roth, but I mean, whatever. We'll see what they do with it. Congrats, Pilot Shaws. It will be a series. Ben Mendelsohn, who is awesome, and Samuel L. Jackson, who is awesome, will be in it. Sweet. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it, especially since they already kind of changed the scroll in the MCU spoilers. There's going to be a show, yep, again, another series called Ironheart. No idea who that is. It's a genius inventor who makes a new suit that's better. That's the most advanced suit of armor since Iron Man. No idea what that is. Armor Wars. Don Cheadle. Woo! It's going to be a series. With James Rhodes back as War Machine. Honestly, a War Machine story sounds awesome to me. I mean, you could do like a... We've talked about this before. There's two real ways to do military fiction. There's straight and there's comedic. And a straight military, or either of those, military fiction in MCU, I'd totally be down for that, so... We'll see what they do with Armor Wars. All of this is just announcements, so very little information here. Please forgive me. James Gunn is back for Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. No, Jon Snow, I have not, and will not, probably for about a year. Maybe longer. He's still working on 3. This is, the holiday special is leading into 3. It's a series. Oh no, it's a special. It is a special, sorry. Why do this? Oh, that's why. That's why they're saying it's series. It will include the cat. What the heck, guys? Alright, whatever. I Am Groot is going to be a series of animated shorts. I don't really think I need to add anything to that, to be completely honest with you. Christian Bale is joining the cast of Thor: Love and Thunder as Gore, the God Butcher. We do know Natalie Portman's back. That's already been confirmed for some time. No new information there. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania. So Cassie Lang will be having a role in it, so that's cool. Wow. Jonathan Majors will actually be portraying Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Well, there you go. Apparently Kang is actually definitively going to be in the MCU now. It's just in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, 2, whatever. Ant-Man 3. This will be a film, by the way. What's next? We got 2 more, guys. Black Panther 2. So they've mentioned a while ago that they're not actually going to recast Chadwick T'Challa, which they shouldn't. They haven't said what they're going to do about that yet, but, you know, that is a thing. It's probably coming out in 2 years, yada, yada, yada. It'll be set primarily in Wakanda. Cool. That leads us to the last bit. They are doing a Fantastic Four film. Yeah, we might actually get a good Fantastic Four film, guys. To be clear, this is news to me, so forgive my tone, but that's my first reaction is, what? It will be directed by the gentleman who directed Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home, John Watts. So, they have a decent director. It would be nice to have a good Fantastic Four film. I mean, I'm probably not as harsh on some of the previous ones as some other people are, but I would not exactly call them good. What's interesting is, yeah, I agree with Nerozaz. I would rather them do Fantastic Four than X-Men at this point. I know that sounds like a strange statement, but the X-Men carry a lot of baggage, both culturally and in universe. Fantastic Four are a lot more limited. That's just 4 more superheroes who could just be slotted in and out wherever, right? And, well, how do we phrase this? There are arguably several good X-Men films, right? There are arguably no good Fantastic Four films. Now, the reason I mentioned this is because if they make a new X-Men film and it's good, okay. If they make a new Fantastic Four film and it's good, that'll be bigger news. From a creative and from a business perspective, it makes a lot more sense to, bring in Fantastic Four before they bring in X-Men. And yeah, the MCU doesn't have the mutant question, I agree. That's the in-universe problem. So, we'll see. I'm very curious about that, I'll admit it. And yeah, we will probably get Doom. He might even be interesting. Huh. That's a lot to keep track of. I don't have much to add as an aggregate, although I do have to mention, no, Venetia, never my thing. I was never into Vertigo. I do have to mention that once again, just to reiterate this for the third time today, they are going heavily onto the series and shows rather than movies, and that is still probably the right move. But as Mike Romano points out, the MCU hasn't had good luck with shows. So we'll see if they actually manage it. Where the hell am I at my notes? Okay, so... Right! Let's talk about Bioware, although there's not actually much to talk about there, to be completely blunt. But I know you guys like to talk about Bioware because you wouldn't stop asking me about it all week. So, let's talk about Bioware. Alright, we're done talking about Bioware. Tune in next time for... No, okay. Apparently there were Spider-Man 3 announcements. I'm done. We're done. We're done. Moving on. Let's talk about Bioware. I don't care. Tell me when the movie's out. Alright, so, Dragon Age 4 is totally still happening, you guys. We're definitely making it. Please buy our game. Oh, God. The trailer showed nothing and talked about nothing except for two, I would say. 2.5 points of interest here. 2.5 points of interest. The half point is Varric is back, because he's the one who narrated the trailer. Of all the things they could do, that was probably one of the smartest. While Varric wasn't in Dragon Age Origins or Awakening, he has in many ways become the voice and face of the Dragon Age series, so keeping him back actually makes a lot of sense. Yes. But then there's the 2 points. Point number 1, it's almost the Tevinter look, which I don't know if it's actually been confirmed before now, and I don't care. But I'd say at this point we can officially confirm that it's going to be set in Tevinter, because the way that they showed it and the terrain and the styling, yeah. And it looks pretty much exactly what I would mentally picture when I think of Tevinter, so that's awesome. And the second thing is Solus will be in it. Now here's whoop-de-doo, right? Here's the thing. Do you think Solus will be the main villain of Dragon Age 4? Or he'll be the villain for the first act before he ends up being defeated in a kind of anticlimactic way and is revealed to be just a pawn for the real bad guy, who's some generic dude. I wouldn't even be surprised by that as it is. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, the pawn thing. I shouldn't say the pawn thing. But yeah, there's going to be some other bad guy. Behold. We'll talk more about this whenever we review Dragon Age Inquisition, but the way they did Corypheus in Inquisition was just terrible, in my opinion. Yeah, generic dude is... I am Archon. That'll be generic, dude. I make a lot of fun, but it is worth noting, and I just want to be very clear about this. If you guys fund a run of Dragon Age 4, sure. I'll play it. I'll review it. I will try to be as fair as I can when we get there. Because that's my job, and that's my overall mentality. But right now, before the game's even out, and may still never come out, I don't think I have any positive feelings towards it whatsoever. No. One thing I could say that's positive for Dragon Age 4, and that is the presence of Varric. I'm not joking. The behind-the-scenes problems, the Bioware problems, the EA problems, The lots of people leaving and to go found other studios, problems. The fact that they've been sitting on it for forever, problems. The fact that this is the hardest one to explain. But there's the way they've been doing their marketing for Dragon Age 4 is it's what you do when you're floundering and flailing and you have no idea how to progress, but you need to put on a face so that people don't freak out. So you're like, hey, don't worry, guys, we got this. We got this. That is the approach of how they have been doing the marketing for over a year at this point about Dragon Age 4. It's bad. And that does not incline me towards positive, vibes or whatever. When we get there, if we get there, I will be fair then. But I have zero hope now. Which brings me rather neatly to Mass Effect 5. Now, I'll give you that Mass Effect 5's trailer had some good music. Good music, cool. No, they're totally going to fix Anthem. Anyways, so Mass Effect 5 was announced, which everyone's calling Mass Effect 4 because video games make my head hurt. Now to play Kingdom Hearts 3, the 16th game in the series. That is such a pet peeve of mine. So Mass Effect 5 has been announced. And they had several things. They had direct inferences to Andromeda. They showed both galaxies. They had direct references to the First Contact War, where they referenced that in the audio bits in the background. And they had direct references to 3, with both Liara and the N7 armor and the snowcap thing. That's odd that they would try to showcase that, because what that tells to me, again, analytically speaking, what that tells me is that they're trying to show, hey, this is a real sequel, not a soft reboot sequel. We're going to follow through on the events of the previous games, possibly all 4 of them. And yeah, the Dead Reaper, sorry. That's the other 3 reference there. I will say this. That is, I agree with Mike Romano. That is ambitious. That is a brave thing to do. It is probably the thing that I would say would have been the least likely thing they would do, because it is so ambitious and brave. And while those sound like positive traits, ambitious and brave mean lots of chances of failure, and much easier to screw up. Again, I don't want to sound too negative ahead of time, especially since I actually kind of liked Andromeda, although it was a very average game. But, I wasn't as negative towards Andromeda as several people I know. However, walking into this, it's just... we'll see what they do with it, I suppose. Unfortunately, as with the Dragon Age thing, there's not a lot of actual news here. So, I mean, if you want me to go ahead and throw a giant target over my head, I think Andromeda had the best overall leveling system of the Mass Effect series. And the best combat. So make of that what you will. They had, like, 2 cool boss fights, which they really should have had way more of, because they were really cool. Yeah. Anyways. So there. Target painted. Go ahead and hit me. Is that it? That is actually it. Is that... God, did we do it? How long... This has been a 2-hour Loreweek. I have a headache. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Loreweek. I don't actually have anything else to add at this point. A lot of announcements, several new games that I'm actually legitimately excited for. Ghost of Goblins, hell yeah. Yakuza, hell yeah. ESO, yeah, we'll never get there. Evil West looks weird but no info. Road 96 looks awesome. Disco Elysium for people who care about that. Loop Hero looks awesome. Fist looks awesome. It Takes Two looks awesome. Back 4 Blood looks awesome. Lots of new Star Wars stuff. Lots of new MCU stuff. Yes, I am exceptionally glad for that, Venetia. So yeah, I'm going to chop off the local recording.